You can shoot the film, but still, you won't shoot the film until you can paint with all the pixels in the light frame. Howdy everybody, I'm David Geisler. This is the Technophiles Newscast, and I'm kind of excited because we have a listener-submitted topic today. Chris Schultz, a filmmaker in Madison, Wisconsin, introduced us to the Lytro camera. This is a camera that is really doing some pretty impressive things and might be changing how post-production works in filmmaking forever. We all kind of know about the joke of fix it in post when filmmakers are making films. You know, there's too many cars on the street. We'll take them out in post. Or there aren't enough cars on the street in the background. We'll put some in post. We don't have enough explosions for this Transformer film. Fix it in post. We don't have enough Transformers for this Transformer film. Fix it in post! Now, it's fun to make fun of fixing it in post, but the Lytro camera actually might be onto something. The reason Chris kind of wanted us to talk about this is the Lytro camera is maybe a little controversial right now. It allows filmmakers to select lenses and focal points and shutter speeds and all of that in post-production, after the fact. And it does that by actually creating three-dimensional geometry of the scene while it's shooting. Let me break this down a little bit. Obviously, a normal camera, like the camera I'm talking to right now, is just shooting a two-dimensional plane, and it's just recording pixels and colors, and it's got green screen behind me, but then in post-production we make it look blue, and it knows skin color gray, but it doesn't really know what it's looking at. And if you shoot a film with a 3D camera, you're really just using two-dimensional cameras and kind of emulating a 3D experience. That's still kind of a smoke and mirrors trick because the cameras themselves aren't intelligent about the surroundings around them. I mean, that's really how this works. On the podcast, we've often talked about cameras that can record a room in three-dimensional space, kind of like, you know, what the Kinect did 10 years ago, but amped up times a million. Even on the Newscast about a year ago, I talked about a camera that I think Intel created that used two little cameras and a bunch of infrared sensors to read a room, and it could recreate a room in 3 dimensions. So honestly, when Chris told me about this camera, I figured that Lytro was doing a very similar thing. 2 cameras and extrapolating data and figuring out the 3-dimensional geometry. But it's much more complicated than that. So just the basics here is the Lytro camera has a humongous lens that takes in light and filters it into literally millions of microscopic lenses, which then feed to photosensors. So of course that big lens creates little triangles to all the other millions of lenses. When that big lens moves back and forth, the light comes in and the angles of light change microscopically. Now each one of these tiny little lenses can feel that angle change and use some trigonometry and actually deduce how far away that light source is. So that is to say, on a regular camera, a single pixel on a piece of video frame will have an RGB value, maybe an alpha channel, but now each pixel has a 3-dimensional XYZ value as well. So once this camera records all this data, software can take all of that information and recreate a 3-dimensional space of what's being shot. So once we have a 3-dimensional image, an intelligent 3-dimensional image where the computer knows where things are in space, not just a 3D trick like, you know, red and blue glasses, but the computer knows where things are in 3-dimensional space, interesting things can happen. Okay, so now we can actually take focal points, we can change focus in post-production, you can change aperture in post-production, you can change lenses in post-production, you can change your shutter speed, and it's very important to point out, you're not just putting on, you know, 2D filters that are kind of emulating these changes, emulating a lens change or something like that. The computer is simulating a new lens. Now, one of the benefits of creating this 3-dimensional image is that it can effectively eliminate green screens. You know, right now when you're green screening something, the way I'm being green screened right now is we're just running a chroma key and it's looking for green pixels, and when it stops seeing green pixels, it shows my skin color pixels. The computer is smart at doing that, but it really doesn't know what it's doing. It's just looking for things that aren't green. If we were shooting this video with Lytro right now, it would actually understand that I am a piece of mass in the middle of a scene. It would understand that there's a wall back there, and it could take out the wall by essentially putting in whatever we would use as our background image between me and the wall. Is this making sense? It's crazy. So it's measuring light to measure space. If something's standing here and the camera's here, it can say, and our background's here, to say, oh, let's put a background right here. And it can actually create that. Another thing that's really interesting is that it can take little fine things like hair and fabric and fishnet and know where those pixels are. So of course, now that these shots exist in a virtual three-dimensional space, it's very easy to take 3D FX assets and add them into the scene and let them track together one-to-one. Now the reason this is a little controversial is some purists say, well, you should know the shot that you want and you should be able to get it on the set at the moment when you need it. Because you can imagine a scenario where a director or a cinematographer may not know what they're looking for and they get it in post, and this shot goes into post-production and they play around with it for 5 months, getting the focus here and there, blah, 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 just goofing around. And okay, fine, maybe there's a risk for that. But the truth is, I think Lytro is really onto something here. They're trying to respect the image that's captured. They're trying to give a filmmaker and a cinematographer as much control as they might want or need after the fact. You still have to know what you're doing with your camera. You still have to know how to light correctly and still shoot the shot. But in post-production, you can, rack exposure, or you can even push in a little bit. Now, Chris did actually point out that this is going to be seriously affecting people's jobs in the film industry in post-production. I don't know, my take on this is that I think this actually might create a lot of post-production jobs, albeit they'll be different jobs than what exists now. Okay, so I mean, from a technical point of view, this camera is bonkers amazing. I'm obviously very excited about it. From an artistic point of view, I don't know, what do you guys think? Maybe let me know in the comments down below. Is this something that's going to ruin the art of capturing the raw image, or is this going to be a tool that cinematographers can use in post-production? The truth is, it might go both ways. There's going to be people that abuse it, like people who abuse Photoshop filters. Anyway, if you're interested in any of this, we've got links down in the description. You can go check out the Lytro website all on your own. Again, we're really excited that Chris Schultz shared this topic with us. And if you have any topics you'd ever like us to talk about, feel free to tweet them to us at Technophiles Pod. Remember, you can also find us on our Facebook page, Technophiles, by searching Technophiles, or go to our actual website, technophilespodcast.com. Hey everybody, I hope you liked the show. If you did, be sure to click like and subscribe down below, or you can check out some of our recent episodes right over here. We've got Crystal Lee talking about some pretty cool stuff, or you can check out our show that we do, the Technophiles podcast, which is a little bit more of a longer format weekly show that comes out on iTunes and Stitcher, and of course, we film it and put it on YouTube. And we're actually really excited about Chris sharing this story with us, so we're going to put a link down here to his show, Movies with Chris and Max. Click that out. They're just starting it up, and check it out. I'm watching already.